All right, hello and welcome. Today, we're going to get a real handle on function transformations. We're going to learn how to take a simple, basic graph and shift it, flip it, stretch it, basically bend it into any shape we need. So let's dive right in. The best way to think about this stuff is to picture a funhouse mirror at a carnival. A basic function, that's just your normal reflection. But once we start bending and warping that mirror, we get all sorts of distorted images. Well, we can do the exact same thing with mathematical functions, and that lets us model all kinds of real-world stuff. It's an incredibly powerful tool. So here's our game plan. We're going to start simple with shifts, just moving the graph around. Then we'll get into reflections, or flipping. After that, we'll tackle stretching and compressing, touch on a quick note about symmetry, and then finally, we'll put the whole shebang together. First up, shifts. This is all about picking up the entire graph and moving it somewhere else, up, down, left, or right, without actually changing its shape at all. A vertical shift is probably the most intuitive one. All we do is add a number, we'll call it k, to the outside of the function. This directly messes with the y value, the output. So if you see f of x plus 2, the whole graph just slides up 2 spaces. Simple as that, right? Now for horizontal shifts, this happens when we change the input, what's happening inside those parentheses. And this is where things get a little weird, a little counterintuitive. Notice that formula, f of x minus h. That minus sign is everything. It means that f of x minus 2 doesn't move left, it actually moves the graph 2 units to the right. And f of x plus 2 moves it to the left. So this is the most important idea to lock in your brain today, the difference between inside and outside changes. Anything that happens outside the function affects the graph vertically, up and down, and it does exactly what you'd think it would do. Anything inside the function affects it horizontally, left and right, and it usually does the opposite of what your gut tells you. If you can remember that, you're golden. Okay, time for a quick pop quiz. Let's say our parent function is the absolute value of x. How would you write the new function if you wanted to move it 2 units to the right and 4 units up? Go ahead and pause for a second, think it over. And here we go. The answer is h of x equals absolute value of x minus 2 plus 4. To move it right 2 units, we need that counterintuitive inside change, so we put x minus 2 inside the absolute value. To move it up 4 units, we need that straightforward outside change, so we just add 4 at the end. See how we just combined those two ideas? So we've got moving graphs down. Now let's figure out how to flip them over. Let's talk about reflections. And look at that, it's our old friend, the inside versus outside rule. It works here too. If you stick a negative sign on the outside of the whole function, it reflects the graph vertically, right across the x-axis. It just flips it upside down. But if you put that negative inside with the x, it reflects horizontally, across the y-axis, swapping the left and right sides. It's the same exact logic. Okay, so far we've only moved and flipped the graphs, but their basic shape stayed the same. Now let's start actually distorting them. This is where stretching and compression come in. To stretch or squish a graph vertically, we multiply the outside of the function by some number a. And since it's an outside change, it behaves exactly like you'd hope. If a is bigger than 1, like 2, the graph gets twice as tall. We call that a stretch. If a is a fraction between 0 and 1, like 1/2, the graph gets squished to be half as tall. That's a compression. And I bet you can guess what's coming next. The horizontal version is an inside change, which means it's going to be counterintuitive again. If you multiply the input by a number b that's bigger than 1, like f of 2x, it doesn't stretch the graph, it actually compresses it horizontally, squishing it inward. And if b is a fraction, like f of 1/2 times x, it stretches it out. And notice, the factor is always the reciprocal, 1 over b. All this talk about reflections brings us to a really neat and related idea in math. Symmetry, and specifically something called even and odd functions. So an even function, a perfect example is a parabola, x squared, is perfectly symmetric across the y-axis. It's a mirror image of itself. That means if you do a horizontal reflection, f of negative x, you literally get the exact same graph back. An odd function, like x cubed, has a different kind of symmetry, around the origin. This means if you flip it horizontally and vertically, it lands right back on top of itself. It's pretty cool. So now we have our complete toolkit. We can shift, we can reflect, and we can stretch. The final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle is learning how to combine them, because the order you do them in matters a lot. PEMDAS from arithmetic, right? Well, this is kind of like that, but for transformations. You need an order of operations. A really common and reliable order is to take care of any horizontal shifts first. Then do your stretches and compressions. Then apply reflections. And save the vertical shifts for last. Oh, and here's a little pro tip. That note on the slide about factoring, when you have multiple things happening inside the parentheses, factoring is a lifesaver. It makes the horizontal shift so much clearer. Let's walk through one together. Say we want to graph k of t equals -2 to the negative t plus 1. Okay, that looks intimidating, but we just take it step by step. We start with the basic parent function, 2 to the t. Step 1, we see that negative t on the inside, so that's a horizontal reflection. We flip it across the y-axis. Step 2, we see that negative on the outside, so that's a vertical reflection. We flip our new graph across the x-axis. And finally, step 3, we see that +1 on the outside, so we take our twice flipped graph and just shift the whole thing up 1 unit. See? We just build it, piece by piece. I know, that was a lot. So think of this summary table as your ultimate cheat sheet. It's got everything we just covered, all 6 transformation types, all in one place. It shows you the formula and what it does. This is a great thing to have handy. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the point of all this? It's actually this. You don't have to memorize thousands of different functions and what their graphs look like. Not at all. You just need to know a handful of basic toolkit functions, like a parabola, a square root, an absolute value, and with these transformation rules, you can build almost anything you'll ever need. It's all about working smarter, not harder. So, I'll leave you with a little challenge. Start looking for graphs out in the real world. When you see a stock chart or the path of a basketball going into a hoop, ask yourself, what parent function does that look like? And what transformations are at play here? Is it a parabola that's been flipped upside down and shifted? Is it a wave that's been stretched out? The world is full of these transformed graphs, and now you